All right. Good morning, everybody. And also on my behalf, welcome to this Embedded Conference Finland this year. My name is Jaakko Ala-Paavola. I'm a technology director at Etteplan. And in this opening keynote, I'm about to discuss Edge AI, quite a hot topic, and the security of Edge AI solutions. But first of all, I think we need to define certain terminology. So edge in the first place, what is edge? Because that's quite versatile term for different people meaning different things. For the cloud people, the edge means the edge of the cloud. For telecommunications people, it's maybe the base station or even the core of the network is the edge. For some other people, a cellular end device or gateway is an edge, and for some other people, it's the sensor and maybe some microcontroller running down to the sensor level. So in this presentation, when I'm referring to edge, I'm talking about the end devices, ranging from gateway down to the physical sensors. That's my edge. So not the cloud edge and not the cellular edge or the network edge. Just for clarification. And edge AI quite naturally means that AI algorithms running in the edge, not in the cloud, but in the edge. That's my focus in this presentation. So I'm not talking about large language models, generative AI, that kind of things which you usually do in the cloud, but more like machine learning type of applications and the security in that perspective. So it's quite old saying, everybody has heard this, that cloud is just someone else's computer. I would like to expand this definition also to cover edge, that it means in someone else's hands. And this is the unique, specific phenomena of edge and IoT in general, that you do not have a physical control over your processing unit. Unlike the cloud or the telecommunication networks, they are in some controlled spaces, doors locked, access control, fences around. But the physical devices, I guess you are all dealing with embedded systems, they are physically in someone else's hands. And this exposes a new threats and attack surfaces that we need to deal with, also when talking about AI and edge AI. So if there is such a challenge with the edge, why to do things in the edge? Why don't do everything in the cloud? This is actually quite a common question. I have heard that many times. Why do we do in the edge? It's difficult and it's not so cool and sexy. But there are many cases, like if you have some very fast data, sensor data, with high sample rates, some video screens, a lot of sensors, it's maybe not that practical to upload everything up to the cloud. It may be expensive, and your system, your process may be such a critical that it cannot tolerate interruptions in communication. So if you're doing some process control and that type of things, quite easy to understand. Also, there are conditions where you don't have connectivity, like the mining example here. Also, there may be some other reasons, like when talking about defense as example, quite common use case nowadays for an edge AI, that you don't want to upload your data into any other systems for many reasons. And there may be applications like critical infrastructure, where you also have a legislation limiting what you can do and how to secure your systems. But there are also many benefits in doing things in the edge. Of course, speed is one, that very low latency in data transfer. But also, quite often, the embedded systems, they already do have some computing capacity in place, which means that if you are running your machine learning algorithms in the edge, you are like, you can do it with the same cost of your device, or quite minimal increase in the cost of the device. So it's quite low cost alternative actually, and low power. It's usually more power efficient doing the things down in the edge than using energy for data transfer and so on. So there are good reasons for edge AI. And when we are considering the regulatory landscape in EU, that's quite important nowadays. We see there are a lot of things, and well, there are quite many familiar directives that everybody knows. GDPR. Everyone has heard about Cyber Resilience Act, CRA. But then there is one that is not that well known. Huh? Okay. The pointer works, we just don't see it. It works if I show to the roof. So there is an AI Act in the right bottom corner. And in this slide set, which I borrowed from my colleague Antti Tolvanen, it says that AI Act is enforced by 2027, but that's not the full truth. Actually, AI Act is in power already now, not fully, partially, but it already does apply to many things. I will cover that in more details. So I will not be talking about CRA, because there has been so many talks about that. Like I said, Antti has had even in this embedded event several times talking about the CRA. So I will focus on the AI Act, as that is not so well known. So what is AI Act? As the name says, it's covering the artificial intelligence. Already this year, it defines what you are not allowed to do with AI. This is a very significant thing. Also, it says that the organizations must have AI literacy. And what does that mean? It means that the people in the organizations which are developing and using AI, the people must have certain basic understanding about what does AI mean. And how is it affecting, what kind of side effects there are. But it's not very clearly defined that what in practice, what do you need to teach your people. It's just giving the overall framework that you need to ensure your people, your employees are familiar with AI. And also general purpose AI, which means those AI platforms, large language models, which are not a use case specific, but can be used for many purposes. That's also enforced already now. And the high risk AI, the very detailed requirements for applications considered as high risk, so there is a transition period ongoing until the fall 27, so 2 years transition period to refine your R&D processes and also the products utilizing AI. And there are some exceptions. So defense and national security is not covered by AI Act. And it's also allowed to do scientific research and use AI for non-professional uses. What does that mean? I guess hobby things. Any commercial is definitely a professional use. But even if it says that national security is not covered, the regular law enforcement, like police and the court, they are actually covered by the AI Act. So initially, AI Act it has a risk classification and initially defined 4 categories. Later on, added this general purpose AI into the scheme. But basically, it defines risk categories from unacceptable down to minimal risk. And this unacceptable is quite interesting. So it's considered things which are unethical, and they are completely banned. There are things like analysis and manipulation of human behavior, social ranking, estimating the risk of person committing a crime, emotion recognition, and very importantly, the real-time remote biometric identification is not allowed. It means, what does that mean? Remote identification in real time. It means that if there are cameras on the street, surveillance cameras, not even the police is allowed to identify people in real time. This is quite interesting. Actually, all what is here like unacceptable category, which are prohibited, that's what they do in China. It's all what they do in China. So basically, EU says you are not allowed to do anything what they do in China. It's banned. It's illegal. It's prohibited completely. No exception, except the military use case of. But even the police is not allowed to do that. And how do you investigate crimes? Well, crime investigation is allowed. So afterwards, once you know that crime has happened and you that, then you are allowed to use AI to analyze recorded video streams, but not in real time without a reason to do so. Good reason like that, just assessing the risk of someone committing a crime is not good enough. That's not allowed. So then there is high-risk application, high-risk systems. And those are, well, of course, anything related to the safety of products, safety of control system, transport, autonomous vehicles, but also everything that is related to evaluating people. That's always high risk. Whether we are talking about, education, that evaluating the performance, or healthcare, justice system, etc. It's always high risk system, and there are a specific requirements both for the AI solution, for the product itself, as well as for the process, how you are developing and using those systems. So this is very, very important to understand, because these high risk systems that organizations really need to do something in order to comply with the regulations. Then there are limited risk applications, and there basically it covers whenever you are changing the digital content, pictures, audio, video, and the basic requirements is that you must make people aware this is alternated content, that you have manipulated the data somehow with help of AI. And minimal risk is about like entertainment use cases with gaming or some spam filtering, that type of things. And then later on, the general purpose AI was added. There is a reduced requirements, and especially if the algorithms are free and open source, there is like almost no requirements at all if you are allowed to inspect the algorithms. Even though your data, there needs to be some level of transparency to the data, but you don't need to open up your databases completely. But let's take a bit closer look. What does the high risk system, what are the requirements? So on the left hand side, there are requirements for the system itself, so the product. And on the right hand side, there are the requirements for the organization and for the processes. And if you have ever been dealing with medical devices, developing medical devices, actually this is very familiar. There are a lot of similar requirements. So the idea behind is that a good process ensures a good product. But there are some additional stuff, like as example, on the bottom line of the applications, there is fundamental rights impact assessment. And what does that mean? Fundamental rights. What are the fundamental rights? So basically, it's the rights of the people, ranging from human rights to social, political, cultural, economical, environmental rights. And there is a mandatory assessment whether your high-risk AI system is affecting the fundamental rights of people. Like, as example, evaluating people in education or in the workplaces, using AI for recruitment, scanning the CVs, that's immediately a high-risk system. And I'm pretty confident there are plenty of high-risk systems in the market that people don't understand it is high-risk system according to the AI Act. So this is like one of the really the key takeaways. There are the banned solutions or banned prohibited applications, and then there are the high risks. And as you can see, these process and product related requirements, they are not easy. It's similar to developing a medical devices. So one example, there was an article in the last week issue of Tekniikka and Talous magazine regarding a research project for detecting preventive detection of troublemakers in public transport. Sounds great. Yeah, it's much more nice to travel with the tram that if you can, be in safe and no one is causing any trouble over there. It's just like harmless and only for the public good. But actually, depending on interpretation, this is either completely banned or at least a high-risk application. This is something that maybe the people developing, I don't know whether they have recognized that, and I'm not saying whether if they are doing right or wrong. Anyhow, it's a research project, so it's excluded. But if productizing, commercializing such a solution, then you really need to care whether it's allowed to do so. So if we are looking at the exact content of AI Act, the Article 5 about the prohibited practices, it says that it's not allowed to assess whether a person is about to commit a criminal offense. So what is criminal offense? Of course, making loud noise in a tram is maybe not a crime, but if you are about to punch someone, that is basically a crime already, and you are not allowed to do such predictions. The researchers in this project, they were thinking about privacy. They were thinking that, okay, it's a good idea to use edge AI, so we can do some like anonymizing the data already down to the tram level. We don't need to upload the video screen anywhere. But actually the AI Act is also covering that use case. And even if you don't predict the risk of a individual person, but you are just like analyzing the overall mood, like this says, the mood in the vehicle, you are doing a emotion recognition, which is immediately a high risk system. So all the requirements and applications do apply for this seemingly harmless and only for public good application. So that's really like a key takeaway from here. Please be aware of AI Act as it really is affecting very many applications. Okay, but that's about the regulation, and let's also discuss about the technology. So when talking about the security edge AI, I'm considering like 3 layers. There is the platform security. So what is the physical edge device where you are running the AI model? So it's both, hardware and software platform. Then on top of that, there is the the algorithms. So what tools you are using, what technologies, how secure those are, and finally your data, access to the data, quality of the data, both the learning data as well as the operational data. Can you trust your data? Is it good enough for the purpose, and so on. So those are the different layers to take into account when developing the edge AI solution. So for general purpose AI or cloud-based AI, you don't need to care that much about the platform security. Usually you are already provided with pretty good, pretty well maintained, well designed software platforms, preventing the most common threats from the internet. But like mentioned at the beginning, the physical devices, the edge devices, they expose a new risks, new attack vectors or surfaces. So of course, when dealing with some commercial devices, there may be some ports, like let's say like your gateway or industrial PC may have, let's say, USB connector where there is a serial line or terminal command line terminal available, and maybe that even if there is a username password authentication, it's maybe not as well protected as some, let's say, as SSH access with credential based authentication. So that's immediately a like additional exposed risk. Also, if you have access to the hardware, you can basically disassemble the product, go straight down to the interfaces, maybe remove some components, some storage, memory, or other components for further more advanced investigation. There may be some extra features. Quite often there are some debugging interfaces which maybe give you a direct access down inside the device. Of course, always the the maintenance of the software or the software versions updated. Hardware, well, hardware is not as easy to update as the software. So it may be old legacy hardware, default credentials. Luckily, quite many consumer products nowadays comes with a unique passwords, not a common passwords anymore. And even if the device itself is like very well designed and secure, but let's think about some industrial systems. The device is quite seldomly running in any vacuum, like unconnected from any other system. So there are buses, field buses, or other connections, maybe radios, that may be vulnerable as well. A simple example, what is actually the easiest way to take over a commercial passenger vehicle? It's the CAN bus, because CAN bus never designed for security. And in certain car brands, the CAN bus is easily accessible without tools, without getting inside the vehicle. Maybe just the wheelbase, the inner lining, you can just a little bit move the plastic lining, and you have the CAN bus available. Maybe it's going to to the headlights or something like that. Just go connect there with some specific equipment, and you get control over the vehicle. You can open the doors and do things. So that's an example of the interfaces. So even if the ECU, the control unit of the vehicle is well protected, but the CAN bus is not. And then that's like the platform side thing. And on the right hand side, there are directly AI and machine learning related attacks and threats. And I have to admit, I'm not, advanced enough even fully understand what is those, deep leakage from gradients, model inversion, or membership interference attacks. But it's to the extent that I understand, it's about alternating your training data, alternating how the algorithm is running, or investigating, actually getting some information from your training data, and maybe getting some benefits from that side. Maybe actually relevant in those defense applications and so on. So what can we do? There are quite good practices already widely used and for platform security. In any modern PC, industrial PC, gateway product, controller, industrial controller, there already exists a component called Trusted Platform Module. It's either integrated directly inside the processor, or it may be a separate component. And the idea of TPM 2.0 nowadays is that it's a secure storage for your signing keys and for your identification and certificates. So it's a place where it's very difficult to read out your secrets. And when used properly, it actually gives you a pretty good protection against tampering with your system. So well-configured hardware, it only accepts to start a bootloader which is properly signed against those secret signing keys you have, and the bootloader only accepts to start an operating system, a kernel that is properly signed, and this kernel only starts applications which are signed in the right way. So this gives you a complete chain of trust, trusted execution environment, or there are different names from different vendors. So basically, the platform can ensure that all the software running is authentical. It's from the original correct source, and if anyone tries to change the software, the system will break. It's not running anymore. So of course it's possible to prevent a device doing anything. Just cut off the power and it's eliminated. But that's a different story. But this is a good way to ensure that you can trust the software running. Because if you can't trust your device, how can you trust your data? That's the fundamental principle. But then comes the software developers, cloud application designers, and they get a great idea. Yeah, hey, let's use containers. Let's deploy the containers from the cloud into the field devices. What could be better? Yeah, it's an easy way. We can just, make updates whenever we want to orchestrate all the applications in those containers and whatnot. And this is what, all those application cloud providers, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, they are like promoting. They have different names, whether it's a Grassroot or IoT Hub or etc. But what could go wrong is that you are compromising your platform security. The platform no more, the hardware no more has control over what application software you are running. And this is something that most people, I would claim that 95% of software designers have never thought about this. That actually use of those cloud-based container, OCI containers, Docker as the most common implementation is not that secure. It's secure, good enough for most of the consumer products, I would say. and it's secure as long as you can trust your cloud. Well, with those consumer products, if your cloud is compromised and your product is based on communicating with the cloud, it doesn't matter anymore whether the device is compromised, because your system is anyhow compromised. But when we are talking about industrial control systems, critical infrastructure, that type of applications, you really want to ensure your product stays functional regardless of what happens on the cloud side, or if there is any other issues with that. And this is like another key takeaway for you, that really consider this when you are dealing with critical applications, whether it's Linux or any other software platform in place. So I would like to use this opportunity here to promote one of those secure platforms that's called ControlX OS from Bosch Rexroth. So initially it was designed for industrial control systems, for PLCs, but later on published or released as a general purpose operating system, open operating system, which you can run basically in any hardware, supporting or providing the resources needed for running Linux and the TPM to 64-bit ARM or AMD. Well, just like basic stuff. We can say that you can run it in any hardware. And the idea is that everything is containerized. Unlike in this previous page scenario, where quite often it happens that, we are using the TPM to secure everything up to the kernel level. So far, so good. And the, applications are in the God's hands. But the difference here is this is based on Ubuntu Core, and Ubuntu Core is different to a normal Ubuntu server or Ubuntu desktop, in a way that everything is containers. Even the kernel is container, and the libraries are containers, so they are very easy to upgrade individually if needed. And everything is signed, including the kernel, the supporting middleware layer, and the applications. So very, very safe solution in that way. And it does support also updating your applications from the cloud. The applications just need to be properly signed for your hardware. So this is like really a secure. Actually, it's certified against the IEC 62443-4-2. So that's a standard for the cybersecurity of industrial control systems. I have got comments that, there are dozens of such boxes on the market which are certified. Doesn't impress me much. But what is the difference here is on the right-hand side, we are seeing like open Linux platforms. Yocto at the bottom, very, very popular in the embedded systems. Someone may be using even Ubuntu or Debian. ControlX is over there as well. It's open platform, not only that you can run your own application on top of that, but also in a way that you can run the operating system in any other hardware, in your own hardware. If you go to, let's say, Siemens, can I, run the S7 Simatic, software platform in my own hardware? You don't even need to ask for that. The answer is no. The same applies to all the other vendors of the industrial automation. So here are all the major vendors. They do provide, cybersecurity certified products, but they are not open. They are not open the same way that I'm referring to being open, that I can, run the software in my own hardware. And the ControlX OS is the only one that, as far as I know, if you know better, please inform me. But currently the only one that is simultaneously both open and secure. Secure as certified for this cybersecurity standard. All right, good. But let's continue with AI. Actually, I reused the previous picture from the starting page, but a bit different meaning here. So basically, there are two types of machine learning approaches. The deep learning, that you have a training data, you teach your neural network, and then there is another one that is incremental learning, which is not that well known, and that's why yet again I want to talk about incremental learning. Here's an example. Ekkono, that's a Swedish company. Actually, Etteplan has invested some money in that company, but we are like, minority owner, so it's not Etteplan technology in that sense. And Ekkono is providing a solution where your machine learning happens locally inside the device. So you don't need to collect training data, upload that to your computer or to a cloud for the training, but it's learning while you are using the device. Obviously, yeah, this is contributing to the data security in applications like defense. It may be good that you don't need to upload neither training or operational data to anywhere. Everything stays inside the box. Only you provide the outcome, the results, the way that you need to. And a unique and specific feature of incremental learning is that every device, every physical device and unit is learning the typical usage pattern of its own. Unlike in most of the deep learning solutions, you basically, once you have done the learning phase of your algorithm, you basically deploy the same ML algorithm in each and every similar device. But with incremental learning, every device unit learns its own pattern. And why does that matter? It matters in applications where the usage of different devices differ from each other. Let's consider something like a pump. Pump, well, of course, there are many different types of pumps for different purposes, but let's consider one type of pumps for wastewater, sewage, like municipal sewage water system, that you have a pumping stations around the city, to get the wastewater to the treatment plant. And even if they are physically similar, usually they are not, because they are from different eras, but let's assume all the pumps are equal. They are not used in equal manner because it depends on whether in that hood, whether it's like residential or industrial area, whether there are apartment buildings or real estates. All that affects on the typical usage pattern of that pumping station. And then you need to understand what is the normal way of this specific station to operate in order to analyze whether there is, maybe some leakage in the pipeline, something problem with the rotor failure, or engine problem, whatever. So that's the reason for incremental learning. And there are most typical use case is condition monitoring, because this technology is good for anomaly detection. It's not that good for object classification, like video stream analytics or picture vision analytics. But condition monitoring, not only monitoring the physical process under investigation, but also for condition monitoring of the sensor component itself. That's quite interesting and a new use case. Also creating virtual sensors that you are interested in something that you are not unable to measure directly. Then it may be possible to create virtual sensor based on other sensor data and remaining useful lifetime of the products, etc. So based on these two technologies, in Etteplan we have created a concept of secure edge AI. So we have a very good platform security. We have this incremental learning from the the company that we have invested in, and together it creates really a secure solution, good for even for defense purposes, and it comply with all the regulations that we can imagine and we are aware of. And now, as we are running out of the time little by little, I will use the last 2 minutes to introduce the demos we have prepared for this session. So over there at the back, we have our Etteplan desk. There are 2 demos. One is about this secure edge AI in incremental learning. And the application that what we are actually showing you, we wanted to have a use case that is not close to any professional application, because we don't want to talk about, you know, some you know, specific electric motor or something like that. So we decided to demonstrate this with the auger drill, you know, ice fishing, that you make a hole in the ice. We don't have an ice here, but there is a bucket with some gravel inside for simulating the drilling for ice fishing. And the idea is that the system learns your normal style of drilling. So first you are supposed to drill as stable as you can for 10 seconds. And after that learning period, it will recognize the deviation in your style. If you're doing it like faster or slower, or, you know, tilting the angle of the auger drill and so on. So just demonstrating this incremental learning. Nothing goes to the cloud. Everything remains inside the device. Also, we have some industrial controller, Control X Core from Bosch. That's definitely overkill for this application. You could run, you know, such a similar machine learning algorithm in tiny microcontroller, but we just wanted to demonstrate this combination of the technologies. The hardware could be anything else, but we just took the commercial off-the-shelf controller. And there is another demo, a little bit different. This is about vision AI, and so it's about object classification. We have different brands of soft drinks, and the idea in this demo is that all the ML, all the object detection algorithm is running here inside this very tiny, inexpensive, low-power ARM microcontroller deployed in that camera module. So this is like, you know, product from OpenMV. It's like, you know, 50 euro, starting from 50 euro or so. Very inexpensive, very low power, and you can see, you know, the detection results on the computer screen, but there is also a tiny screen mounted in the camera module itself, so we can detach the camera from computer, just plug it to a power bank to prove that the algorithm is running in the module, not in the computer. So 2 different types of technologies. The ML model, the vision AI, has been developed with technology from Edge Impulse. So that's actually some, okay, got a reminder that I'm running out of my time. So Edge Impulse is nowadays a Qualcomm company, but it was a startup founded by people from ARM a few years ago. So that's another demo, other technology, and in this demo it's about deep learning. So basically you upload your data to the cloud, do all the magic over there, and then generate the algorithm, then the ML algorithm, and download it to your physical edge hardware. All right, so while there are breaks, take your time and please visit our demos for closer look.
Okay, thanks, Jaakko. We are a little tight on time, but I think there are time for a few questions. I have one.
Okay.
How do you and how does a embedded design company feel about the way EU regulates everything? Does it restrict you? Does it block some business opportunities?
Well, I'm just answering personally, not from company behalf. It feels like the intent is to eliminate any startup business because it's very hard to enter to the market with all the regulations in place. It's much easier for enterprises, but I think that's not really the thing. I think the reason is to block out China and Chinese vendors. So this is regulation against China, not against startup community.
But nobody says that out loud.
Yeah, and as well in this case, it was not the official company opinion, just my own.
All right. Any more questions?
How the different translations of these acts affect different countries, since there is a huge diversity in the translation of the acts in Europe. I don't know where are you of the diversity and the translations?
Yeah.
And that has a huge impact in the capabilities development between the European nations also.
Yeah. This is actually something I would need my colleague Antti Tolvanen, who is observing the regulation in more details. So I'm unfortunately unable to answer that. I don't know if Antti is here. At least his name tag was there.
Okay.
Hopefully he will appear to answer that. I'm sure he is eager to discuss about that topic.
So regarding the startups, something that we have already been seeing, is the easiest option that you just design your product and just not release it in Europe but everywhere else?
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah. I even know that some do that.
Apple does it, for example, for some features.
The question, there's this new proposed chat control law going on to the EU Parliament. Have you heard about it? So they are talking about automatically AI scanning the encrypted emails and everything. So does it go a little bit against this AI Act?
Maybe I don't think that's a prohibited application, but it's definitely a high risk one. That there is this assessment of the conformity assessment. So basically, a notified body must inspect your product. There are quite a lot of questions. I see. Maybe we need to continue this during the break. Yeah. Thanks.